Betrayal doesn't always come with a warning. Sometimes it's a phone call that rips your world apart, leaving you to pick up the pieces while the person you trusted laughs on the other end. My name is Emma, and at 34, I learned that lesson the hard way. This is the story of how I lost a marriage but won back my life, one steady step at a time. It starts with a call, ends with a key, and holds a truth that'll keep you hooked. Sometimes the home you fight for isn't just a place, it's who you become. The hotel conference room in Atlanta hummed with the low buzz of colleagues swapping small talk before our big presentation. I was flipping through my notes, mentally rehearsing my pitch, when my phone lit up with a call from my husband, Ryan. I slipped into the hallway, expecting his usual check-in. "How's the trip? Miss you. Safe travels." Instead, his voice cut through the line like a blade, cold and sharp. "I'm done, Emma. I'm divorcing you," he said, a smug edge to his words. "Oh, and I sold the house. You'll need to find somewhere else to crash." I stood there, the phone pressed to my ear, my breath caught in my chest. The hallway seemed to tilt, the patterned carpet blurring under my feet. "You sold the house?" I managed, my voice steady despite the chaos in my head. "Our house?" "Yeah," he said, and I could hear the smirk in his voice. "Lila. And I need the cash to start fresh. She's not into that cramped little place anyway." "Lila." The name hit like a punch, though I'd suspected something for months. Ryan's late nights at the office, his sudden business trips, the way he'd started locking his phone, it all pointed to someone else. But hearing her name, spoken so casually, like I was the one intruding on their story, lit a fire in me. I wasn't going to let him hear me break. "Good luck with that," I said, my tone cool as ice, and hung up before he could respond. My name is Emma, and until that moment, I thought I'd married a man I could build a life with. Ryan and I had been together for 7 years, married for 5. We'd scraped together every penny to buy our house, a charming 2-bedroom in Denver with a creaky porch and a backyard just big enough for a small garden. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours, a symbol of the life we'd dreamed of. Or so I thought. Looking back, there were signs I'd ignored. Ryan's vague answers about our finances, his habit of brushing off my questions with a grin and a, "Don't worry about it, babe." I'd mistaken his confidence for competence. Now I saw it for what it was, control. The rest of the day was a haze. I sat through meetings, smiling on cue, while my mind churned. Ryan thought he'd outplayed me, thought he could sell our home and walk away with the proceeds, leaving me scrambling. But there was one thing he didn't know. One move I'd made without even realizing how crucial it would be. Months ago, when we'd refinanced the house to get a better rate, I'd had the deed transferred to my name alone. Ryan had signed the paperwork without a second glance, too lazy to read the fine print. His carelessness was about to undo him. Back in my hotel room that night, the shock gave way to resolve. I wasn't going to beg or cry. Ryan wanted a fight? I'd give him one he'd never forget. I called my lawyer, Sophie, a friend from college who never minced words. "He did what?" she said when I told her about the sale, her voice a mix of disbelief and amusement. "Does he not know the house is in your name?" "Apparently not," I said, a small smile creeping onto my face. "He thinks he's already spending the money with Lila." Sophie let out a low whistle. "Oh, he's in for a surprise. The sale's not legal, Emma. You own the house outright. If he's taken a dime from the buyer, he's looking at fraud charges." The word fraud sent a spark of satisfaction through me. "What's our next move?" I asked. "We'll contact the buyer, inform them the sale is void," Sophie said. "Then we'll send Ryan a letter spelling out exactly how much trouble he's in. If he pushes back, we'll bury him in court." I hung up, feeling a calm I hadn't expected. Ryan thought he'd left me powerless, but he'd miscalculated. I spent the rest of the trip focusing on work, pushing the hurt to the back of my mind. The betrayal stung, but the thought of turning Ryan's smug victory into his downfall gave me a fire I hadn't felt in years. By the time I boarded the plane home, I was ready to face him, to unravel his lies, and to take back what was mine. The flight to Denver gave me time to think. Ryan's arrogance was staggering. He hadn't even tried to hide his plans, as if I was too weak to fight back. But I wasn't the same woman who'd let his charm smooth over every red flag. I'd been quietly building my own strength, and now it was time to use it. As the plane descended, I called Sophie again. "I'm back," I said, tugging my suitcase through the airport. "What's the latest?" "We've reached the buyer," she said, her voice crisp. "They're furious with Ryan for misrepresenting the sale. They're ready to cooperate with us. As for Ryan, I emailed him the letter this morning. Lays out your ownership, the illegality of the sale, and the fraud risk. No response yet, but he's probably losing it." "Let him," I said, a quiet thrill running through me. "What's next?" "Sit tight and wait for his move," Sophie said. "He'll either back down or dig himself deeper. Either way, we've got him." The house was quiet when I got home, but it felt different, like the air had shifted. Ryan's stuff was still there, his jacket slung over a chair, his running shoes by the door, but it didn't feel like his space anymore. I set my suitcase down, steeling myself for the storm I knew was coming. Sure enough, Ryan burst through the door that evening, his face flushed with rage, clutching his phone like a weapon. "What is this crap?" he shouted, thrusting the screen toward me, where Sophie's letter glowed in black and white. "You're saying I can't sell the house? It's ours, Emma." "No, Ryan," I said, crossing my arms, my voice steady. "It's mine. The deed's been in my name since the refinance. You can't sell what you don't own." He froze, his mouth half open, like he'd been slapped. "What are you talking about?" I pulled the deed from a folder on the counter, holding it up. "You signed this, remember? When we refinanced? Or did you just scribble your name without looking, like always?" His eyes darted to the paper, then back to me, his confidence crumbling. "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice wavered. "I made a deal. The buyer's already paid." "Then you've got a problem," I said, stepping closer. "The sale's void, Ryan. The buyer knows, and they're not happy. If you've spent any of that money, you're in deeper trouble than you realize." He started pacing, his hands raking through his hair. "This is insane, Emma. You're blowing this out of proportion. You can't just kick me out." "Actually, I can," I said, my tone firm. "This house is mine. I'm letting you stay for now, but only because I'm giving you a chance to figure out your next step. Don't mistake that for weakness." Over the next few days, Ryan's bravado turned to desperation. He left voicemails, swinging from apologies to accusations. "You're ruining my life, Emma," one message whined. "Can't we just talk?" another begged. I didn't respond. Sophie was handling the legal side, and I was done playing his games. The buyer had officially pulled out, threatening to sue Ryan for misrepresentation, and Sophie was moving forward with the divorce papers. "He's got no leverage," she told me during a call. "The fraud threats got him scared, and he knows it." My best friend Mia came over one night with pizza and a mission to help me reclaim the house. We packed Ryan's things into boxes, stacking them neatly in the garage. "How's he holding up?" she asked, taping up a box of his old band t-shirts. "Badly," I said, laughing for the first time in days. "He thinks he can still talk his way out of this, but I'm not budging." "Good," Mia said, tossing a pair of Ryan's sneakers into a bag. "He doesn't get to walk all over you anymore." Packing up his stuff wasn't just practical, it was cathartic. For years, I'd carried the weight of our marriage, managing bills, keeping the house running, while Ryan took credit for our stability. Now I was taking it all back. The house felt lighter without his clutter, like it was breathing again. The final showdown came a week later when Ryan showed up with Lila in tow. I was at the kitchen table, reviewing work emails, when they walked in like they owned the place. Lila, all sharp cheekbones and designer sunglasses, surveyed the house with a smug smile. "So, this is where we're setting up?" she said, her arm hooked through Ryan's. "It's quaint." I stood, my heart pounding, but my resolve like steel. "No, Lila," I said, my voice clear. "This is my house. Ryan's been staying here, but you're not welcome." Her smile faltered, and she glanced at Ryan, who looked like he'd swallowed glass. "What's she talking about?" she demanded. "This," I said, gesturing to the house, is mine. Ryan tried to sell it behind my back, but he doesn't own it. The deed's in my name, and the sale's been voided. Ryan's face reddened. Emma, stop it. You're being ridiculous. No, what's ridiculous is thinking you could sell my home and walk away with the cash, I shot back. You told me you were divorcing me, laughed about leaving me homeless. But you messed up, Ryan. You signed the house over to me months ago. Lila's eyes narrowed, her grip on Ryan tightening. You said you sold it, she hissed. You said the money was ours. It's complicated, Ryan stammered, but I cut him off. It's not complicated, I said. You committed fraud, Ryan. You took money for a house you don't own. And Lila, if you're banking on that cash, you might want to rethink your plans. Lila's composure cracked. Fraud? She said, stepping back. You dragged me into this. You said it was handled. I can fix it, Ryan pleaded, but she was already heading for the door. Don't bother, she snapped, yanking it open. I'm not sticking around for your mess. The door slammed behind her, leaving Ryan staring at the floor. Looks like you're on your own, I said, crossing my arms. Now, let's talk about what happens next. He sank onto, the couch, his head in his hands. Emma, I messed up. I know I did. Can't we work this out? No, I said, pulling a folder from the counter and setting it in front of him. This is the divorce paperwork. Sign it, pack your things, and leave by tonight. That's the deal. He stared at the folder, his face pale. You hate me this much? I don't hate you, I said, my voice steady. I pity you. You had a home, a partner, a life, and you threw it away for what? A fantasy with someone who just walked out on you? I'm done cleaning up your messes. He didn't argue. By evening, he was gone, his boxes loaded into his car, his key left on the counter. I locked the door behind him, the new deadbolt clicking into place. The silence that followed was profound, like the house was finally mine again. Mia came over, the next night with wine and takeout. He's really gone? She asked, sprawling on the couch. Really gone, I said, pouring us each a glass. And I'm not looking back. We toasted to new beginnings, and as we laughed and ate, I felt the weight of years lifting. The house was transforming, not just because I was rearranging furniture or hanging new art, but because it was becoming a reflection of me. I painted the living room a soft sage green, added a cozy rug, and filled the shelves with books I'd always wanted to read. It wasn't just a house anymore, it was a home. Sophie kept me updated on the legal side. The buyer dropped any pursuit of fraud charges, satisfied that the sale was voided, and Ryan signed the divorce papers without a fight. He knows he's beat, Sophie said during one of our calls. You're free, Emma. Officially. Free. Felt like a word too small for what I was experiencing. It wasn't just the end of a marriage, it was the end of doubting myself, of settling for less than I deserved. Ryan sent a few texts after he left. Half-hearted apologies, pleased to talk. I deleted them without replying. He'd made his choices, and I was done carrying his consequences. A month later, the house was unrecognizable, not because of major renovations, but because of how it felt. It was warm, inviting, alive with my energy. I hosted a small dinner, party with Mia and a few friends, the table filled with laughter and stories. As I looked around, I realized this was what I'd been fighting for. Not just a house, but a life where I called the shots. One evening, while sorting through old files, I found a photo of Ryan and me from our first year together, grinning on the porch of the house we'd just bought. For a moment, I let myself remember the good times, the late-night talks, the shared dreams. But those memories were overshadowed by years of disregard, of feeling invisible in my own marriage. I slipped the photo into a drawer, not ready to toss it, but knowing it didn't belong in my present. Mia and I celebrated the finalized divorce at a rooftop bar, the Denver skyline sparkling below. You're glowing, she said, raising her glass. This is your era. It's not about being single, I said, clinking my glass against hers. It's about being me. No compromises, no apologies. As I curled up on my couch that night, a mug of tea in hand, I thought about Ryan's phone call, that cruel, triumphant laugh. He'd thought he'd won, thought he could break me. But his arrogance was his undoing, and my quiet strength was my salvation. This house, this life, was mine, earned through every choice I made to stand my ground. So, here's the question. What's worth fighting for in your life? And when the moment comes, will you pick up the phone or turn the key? Stick around, because the answer might just change everything.